All right, so we can start off with just a little background on who you are before we get into like the actual questions.
Definitely.
So,
introduce myself.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Hi. I'm Ian Slater. I'm class of 2009 from McDonogh. I was class president at McDonogh when I was a senior. I was also an RL. I went to Brown after that. I graduated in 2013. I was a swimmer and water polo player in high school, and then swimmer all the way through Brown. Since graduating, I've been a real estate agent, real estate broker is what we call it in New York. When I was 26, I founded my own team of real estate agents in the city. Now I have 10 people who work for me, and I'm in the top 10 real estate brokers in the city now.
Cool.
Only one job my whole time since. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. So if we just start chronologically, I know the questions that written down aren't exactly chronological, but I think you were president. That's super cool.
I was.
So was that like a really big accomplishment, or was that something you expected? Where was that in your life?
So I was always very focused on sports and swimming in high school, and I was never that involved in the class government. When I was a junior, I decided to run for class government, in all honesty, to help my resume. But so that year I was the vice president, but I really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed being much more involved in things beyond the swim team. So I ran again senior year and I won. And it was amazing. I honestly did not think I would win whatsoever. And I remember that being incredibly fun because I was sort of an outsider in the class, in the student government. And we were able to, I was more focused on making the year really memorable and really fun for everyone. So I focused a lot on I did a lot of stuff for April Fool's Day, I did a lot of stuff for prom. I made a lot of clothing for everyone that they could wear. And it was amazing. It's it's something that obviously helps you in college and life and leadership and everything. And it got me into the RL, so that was awesome too.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. Nice. I guess just continue with your time at McDonogh. Do you have a specific highlight? Obviously, the being class president.
Yeah.
But other than that, do you have any highlights, specific memories?
I would say two major memories I have that were incredible. Is one when I grew up 10 minutes away from McDonogh, and when I'm the youngest of three boys, and my middle brother went to college when I was in 8th grade. So when I was a freshman, I was alone in my house. And my parents went away for their anniversary, and I don't know if you can still do this, but back then you could board for 2 weeks if your parents went away and
Really?
didn't want to leave you home alone. So I boarded then, and I was this is amazing. I have brothers again. I was so into it. So that was sophomore year, and sophomore year fall, I was I'm not coming home. I'm going to stay. I'm just going to board, and I boarded all the way through until I graduated. I thought boarding was the most amazing, transformative, cool thing that it makes you grow up. It gives you family. It gives you kind of the intensity of being at McDonogh all the time and really getting to know all the teachers super well. I felt that was the biggest thing that honestly, when I was younger, made me really come out of my shell a lot and made me become really passionate and involved in McDonogh. Now, to the point where anyone who visits me in Baltimore, I go back and I'm you got to see my high school. You got to come back and see it. So that's one. The other one I would say was we got progressively better at swimming as I was there. I think the swim team is still really good.
They're really good.
Right? Yeah. So when I was there, we used to always lose to Loyola every single year. And we won senior year by the littlest amount. And I was the captain along with Giles Smith, who also proceeded to go into the Olympic trials.
I think I've heard that name before too.
So that was, I've never been more pumped up for an athletic event in my life. I'll never forget that.
They still compete with Loyola every year.
Yeah.
Under the wire.
But we usually beat them.
I think we've won the last few years.
Had a good
Yeah.
track
So
record.
that was my senior year was the first year that we won, and it was just wild. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Speaking of swimming, I know all those guys have a lot of really strong commitment to the sport. And I
Yeah.
see them practicing 4 a.m. after school, dieting too. I mean, I think that's something that probably has helped you carry over in the professional world and something like that.
I mean, I attribute like a lot of my professional success to swimming.
Yeah.
Because you have to have insane time management. I mean, if you go back to my life in high school, a big reason boarding was so great is because I would have to wake up at like 4:45 or 5, get in the pool, swim, go to boarder breakfast, school all day, swim 4 to 7. I would literally miss dinner. My roommate would have to bring me dinner, and then he would bring me back dinner, and I would do homework for 2 hours and then go to bed.
Yeah.
So like now when I wake up in the morning, I still 30 years old. I wake up in the morning, work out, do work all day, kind of like work till I go to bed. But everyone says I can squeeze more into a day than a lot of people, and I think it's honestly because of swimming and because of like the workload that McDonogh put on me too.
Yeah.
At that point, and that lasts forever. I hated it at the time, but like looking back, it was great.
So what were some of your motivations to have that lifestyle at that age?
I'm just like very type A and intense, and I was competitive. I think McDonogh, if you look at it, compared now that I know other high schools and other people from around the country, McDonogh has a very unique focus and culture on athletics, right? Yeah. So it was very clear to me that like you had to be involved in something. I was not very into lacrosse. I was not into football. I was not into soccer. I like really enjoyed swimming. So it encouraged me to really focus on that, and I felt like that was it was like unignorable really. It didn't really feel like I had a choice back then, but it was just something to like channel a lot of my energy into then.
Got it.
So then how did that feel, or like that McDonogh feel, was that different at Brown? Like was there less emphasis, and then how was like the workload compared between the two?
I found college to be relatively easy after high school. So there's an NCAA limitation on how much you can practice every single week. For it's like 20 hours, I think. Mm-hmm. So you can't, literally it's like 6 hours a day at McDonogh down to 4 hours a day in college.
Oh wow.
So there's less like homework and there's less class.
Right.
So it's it definitely prepared me very well for that. But it also, I like never really knew what to do with my free time in college, like the more free time that I had, because it had been so intense in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully life gets easier for you.
Yeah.
And then academically, let's talk about that at Brown. So what did you study?
I studied
undergrad?
International relations, which is basically a mixture of language, politics, history, econ, and like business.
Okay, and what was the root for that interest?
Initially, I wanted to be in politics.
Really?
Because of like student government, and I loved people. So I wanted to study. I really wanted to be like in the government, basically, or work for a nonprofit. And I ended up, when I was after junior year of college, I actually worked for the New York City Council for a summer, and I thought that like everything I liked, kind of people, speed, interacting with people, helping people, doing good for everyone, I would have that working for the government, but it was just really bureaucratic and very slow, and I didn't like it at all, because I also have like a pretty serious chip of entrepreneurialism in me, so I needed like that kind of drive. And I found that with real estate, and I did not find that with politics, so I pivoted out of it.
That's cool. That's cool.
You mentioned you worked for the government for a summer. Were there any like internships or experiences like out of school that you found valuable?
So in high school, I didn't intern at all. I was a lifeguard.
Yeah.
And then
You had some friends who did that.
I mean, there's like not that many opportunities when you're in high school. And I was also swimming all the time. Right. Like I was swimming the whole summer. So if you go back, my internships were one summer. First summer I just swam after college. Second summer I took intensive Arabic at Columbia because I thought about being in like the international government. Not used at all now except for like random international clients. And then junior year I did that internship with the city council.
Cool. Nice. And so you studied at Columbia. Did the New York thing start in high school? or you wanted to be here?
No.
Or that's
So
just
I was
ironic, or-
I was all Baltimore. My family's totally Baltimore.
Really?
My grandmother lives in New Jersey, but that's it. So yeah, a lot of Brown students live in New York. It's like a big matriculator to New York. So I said like half my class lives here, a third lives in San Francisco, a third lives in LA. No one lives in Baltimore. So it was like, it just felt like the natural progression to move to New York. So I wanted to try it out because a lot of my close friends, swimmers, everyone was coming here.
Right. You described yourself as being type A and
Yeah.
I think New York. We've experienced that already.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
for like 2 days. Like it
Yeah.
definitely meshes
No,
with that.
I love Baltimore. I love McDonogh specifically, but I found the energy I wanted in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
You want to move on to I guess we have the set questions.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Go for it. I'm good.
Yeah, I can also change the time on this so it doesn't turn off.
I think I'm good. I think like you can just ask them.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So the first one we have is how did McDonogh guide you to find your passion, be it real estate or swimming or otherwise?
Yeah, I think if I circle back to the boarding thing, a major piece of what I did, I essentially founded a company, right? So, and everything I do is self-motivated and, on your own get up and go. I found McDonogh did two things. One, with the boarding, it truly led me to be more independent at a young age than I ever thought I could be, right? I was not dependent on my parents for anything, and they didn't really guide me much of which direction to go. So McDonogh kind of gave me that opportunity to be on my own and like forge my own path. And then same with academics there. It really led you to try out new things, not be scared, and the teachers were super encouraging of you to be not so afraid to fail, which is something that I think gives you an entrepreneurial streak as you get more into life.
And then we already kind of covered the second question about
Yeah.
what professional skills you can attribute to McDonogh, like the time management and swimming.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
I guess we can just move to the third. How would you describe the McDonald's Network, and how have you benefited from it or used it?
So this is an incredible thing that I've noticed more recently because I'm, 12, 13 years out of McDonogh. Most of my close friends from college are, we have our own network, and the Brown network is extremely strong. None of them really have a network from high school. They kind of left it behind and carried on with just the college network. I have a group of 10 to 12 friends from home that are still my incredibly close friends, and most of them actually live in Baltimore, a few of them live in New York, some in Chicago, LA, and Florida. There is a thing with McDonogh where we just maintain a closeness and an understanding of our childhood that will last, I think, forever. Whereas I'm not seeing that with some of my other close friends from college, because you change a lot in college, right? And you grow up a lot, and like if we're all separated, it's difficult to maintain that relationship. Something with the network of McDonogh maintains us all together, and then beyond that, I obviously don't live in Baltimore where the majority of the McDonogh alumni live, but when I run into someone from Baltimore or from McDonogh in New York, I'll run into them in through work, or I'll run into them socially. There's like this immediate understanding of each other and support of each other, and like desire to help one another. That is sort of unparalleled from what I've seen from my other friends.
That's super cool.
I think in some way us being here is a testament to that too.
There you go.
So,
yeah, that's why
yeah.
I'm saying the term. Yeah,
Exactly.
That's super
I think I answered you in like 5 seconds. I was like, of course.
Yeah.
As a little sort of sidebar question to that, we've discussed sort of how like different sets of friends go to different cities.
Yeah.
Will you describe how that process works out of college, like moving on to a bigger world and choosing one of the like few big cities?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is professional and some of it is social.
Okay.
So I can speak personally. I wanted to be on the East Coast because my family's in Baltimore. I wanted them to be able to easily access me. And if you're going to work in a profession that's real estate, law, finance, honestly, like some degree of media, there is no place better than New York. So if you really if you're career oriented, you feel very drawn to New York because it remains the center of the world for everything. My friends that decided to go to LA largely wanted to be in film or television. My friends that went to San Francisco largely wanted to be in tech or startups. So a lot of it is just simply career driven. There is some degree of lifestyle where New York is difficult and expensive and hard to live in, so that's sometimes not the best, and people might want to go live in a smaller city that's a bit friendlier. San Francisco's people sometimes move for like the nature. And then, but there's also the people who move back to be closer to their families or have family businesses or like want to be close. I certainly have friends that moved back to Baltimore for that reason. That was just not, it was not my desire.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Our next question would be, how did your character change throughout your time at McDonogh, and how has it changed the most, and how did it change since graduation as well?
Yeah. High school graduation.
Yeah, high school.
Okay.
Or,
So I would say when I was a freshman, I was very quiet. I was like very in my own head. I was social, but I was not like ultra outgoing. When I started to get into high school and started to interact with the teachers, and specifically when I started to board, is when I like truly came out of my shell and I'm now known as like ultra social and like ultra out there and like gregarious and a leader and everything. And that's, McDonogh kind of like drove me on that path and led me to just blossom as I got towards graduation. Obviously I became the class president. It's like the most social thing you could possibly do. And I was like, became very outspoken and everything. Since graduation, you know, going to Brown was another very transformative part of my life, right? Because it puts you in this totally separate network. Like the McDonald's Network's amazing, but the Brown Network is just it's a global network that you ultimately have access to once you graduate from there. So that sort of led me to take this like Baltimore McDonogh confidence and make it into a global confidence and say, okay, I can move to New York and be successful. I can really like do anything I really want. And I think I always like, looking back, I always believed that I could be successful with whatever I did. And I think that's the big differentiator, just like seeing yourself sort of doing whatever you want to do. That McDonogh really instilled in me. And it's just like, building of confidence over the years, frankly.
Got it. So you were really confident with whatever you would do. So
Yeah.
was real estate a good opportunity or like a personal interest, or like why real estate then?
So my dad has a building company in Baltimore, so it was sort of always in my blood to like be around building and development and houses. I really like people, honestly. It's like I find people and their paths and their success very interesting. And I didn't even know, honestly, that real estate like existed. I didn't know that you could do what I do. So I met, when I moved to New York, I didn't have a job, and I wanted to be, I thought in a startup, or I thought in maybe politics, and as I said, I didn't really like it. So I met a real estate broker randomly, like through a connection, and they seemed to hit everything that I wanted, which was people-oriented, entrepreneurial, no boss, like no climbing the ladder, which was a very like millennial thing. I didn't want to sit behind, you know, in an office and like climb the corporate ladder. So I sort of fell into it, but I think a lot of the drive, get up and go and focus was always instilled in me from a young age, and it sort of just all came together to like work for this career.
Mm-hmm. I think as 3 guys who in 4 years will be looking to get into a certain profession.
Yeah.
What is your least favorite part of being a real estate broker?
My least favorite part, I would say that there's a lot of things I do. There's a lot of things that are beyond my control that are annoying. So like my job is essentially to market and sell buildings and apartments and like create deals between sellers and buyers, and there's tons of external factors that you can't control on a daily basis, right? People get scared of buying, or the market goes up and down, and you just have to kind of like ride with it. And I think that's the case with any profession, that there's a lot of things that are going to be out of your control if you're dealing with a market, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
But it can be wildly frustrating.
What would your advice be to maybe yourself or another person straight out of college that's like looking for, or maybe questioning what they want to do?
Straight out of college?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I would say, if I could go back to my high school or college self, my high school worldview was like this big, right? And then my college worldview was quite a bit larger, but I had no understanding of the professional world. So I would say, identify older people who have had some degree of success or experience in their careers in anything you're interested in. It can be like literally neuroscience to real estate brokerage to law to politics, and like take them to lunch and ask them about their experience and ask them about what their day's like on a daily basis. School will never teach you what a professional life is like, and I think I was very scared of asking people for help, and I was very scared of asking people what their experiences were like. I don't know why. I didn't want to be a bother or something. But people are like incredibly willing to help you and incredibly willing to go out of their way to talk about their experiences. So I think just like being open about wanting help and wanting some guidance or just understanding what the daily life is like would be incredibly helpful.
Awesome. What about to budding entrepreneurs like you?
That is a different question. I think there's different, like what I do is not, I didn't found a tech company, right? I didn't raise money. It's different. Like I provide a service, right? I think what you have to understand is that there's going to be very difficult times and there's going to be very good times. So you have to sort of just learn to have a very thick skin and plow on and like have a big goal that you're chasing so that you don't let the day-to-day get you down. Because it can be a very frustrating lifestyle. There are certain days where I want to say I would rather work for a big company and like have a salary and have some stability and wake up and have someone tell me what to do on a daily basis. But that's like one day a month, right? The rest of it is, I would say, I think like owning a company, being an entrepreneur, working for yourself is the best possible lifestyle because you don't have to answer to anybody, but you also have to understand that it comes with a lot of work. It comes with like the 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. workday. It comes with no real guidance. So you have to have a lot of that get up and go.
We talked about student body president as a senior at McDonogh. It's a great accomplishment, but maybe what's your biggest accomplishment since graduating from McDonogh?
Since graduating? Honestly, I thought a great accomplishment was graduating from McDonogh. But I would say just having the gumption to go off and found my own thing when I was young, because even still I get a lot of like accolades for being so young in my business, but I don't like really think it's that impressive. I think if you're in something for a long time and you're driven with it and you work hard, it's just like swimming. Like you put as much into it, you're going to get things out of it. But a big accomplishment was just kind of like having the courage to found something when I was 26 and work at it from a young age, because ultimately it just gives me a lot more runway.
Can we discuss the growth of, it's called the Slater team?
Yeah.
Compass?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we just discuss the growth of that group?
Yeah. So like I sort of hate doing this. If you calculate like our success is measured on how much real estate we sell, right? That's ultimately we're in a sales job. So when I was 26, I founded the team with just me, and then I hired an assistant maybe 3 months later, and I've sort of hired like one person every 6 months since then. If you go back and look at how much real estate we sold per year, I think that year it was like 10 million. It was like very small for New York standards. And then the second year maybe 50. The third year was the pandemic, so that was 80, but that was down. Last year we sold 250, and this year we've sold like 250 to date, which is May. So it's been kind of like that. But also the real estate market has been like that, so you can't take full credit for that.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And has as the company gets more successful and bigger, has the work-life balance become more difficult or easier?
100%.
Okay.
I'm literally dealing with this right now. My work-life balance is terrible, and I'm trying to really figure it out right now.
Okay.
It's working. I mean, I'm at that age of like 30 years old where you can really dive into your career and focus on it a lot. You don't have kids, right? You're not like super distracted by the next phase of life. But yes, it has absolutely taken over my life.
How have your problems changed from when it was just you to now when it's, I think you said 12 people, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like managing, just like honestly, this sounds silly, but like being the captain of a team, being the class president, you're dealing with personalities of people, right? That you're trying to get to work together. And the biggest difficulty with that is that, like, you know, when you're dealing with an athletic team, you're dealing with just simply performing athletically. When you're dealing with careers, you're dealing with like money and people's livelihoods and their children. So the difficulty of growing is just like the growing pains of personalities on a team and trying to get everybody to work together and maintain a similar level of drive, right? And also understanding when that's working and when that's not working. Because ultimately I provide a client-based service to someone, and I need to be interacting with the client, but at the same time I'm building essentially a company. So I'm doing two things at the same time, which is hard.
Gotcha.
Fun. But
Yeah.
I guess kind of switching gears, how have McDonough's teachings of, I guess, character driven you after your time at McDonogh?
Yeah. So I'm in a business that's like known to be a little bit cutthroat and a little bit, a lot of people in my business are like ethically questionable, right? Because it's a sales business. It's like pretty high stakes in New York. And, you know, there's like 25,000 real estate brokers in the city, all trying to do sort of the same level of business. It's like any major career, like LA film producers or agents, similar level of competition. So that leads to ethics falling a lot, and a lot of, you know, people just kind of just being crappy people to one another. And if I go back, I think less of the honor code, but more of like the McDonogh rules for living that are you reminded me, the main one is living your life to do the greatest possible amount of good, which, you know, if I wake up with that in my mind every single day and understand it like deeply, you're meant to be honest and ethical, you know, driven and work hard, but also maintain that level of ethics that can really guide you very well in a career. And the biggest thing one of the biggest pieces of feedback I get is largely we're in a referral-based business. And if you have good honesty and ethics and work hard and do what you say you're going to do, people are going to refer you, your name is going to spread around, and you'll ultimately be more successful. And I have a very, very good reputation amongst my colleagues, but also like my client base for all of that. So I think you can take that back to when I was literally 11.
Is that what you say makes your group like unique among other groups? Or
I think it's one of the things. Yeah, maybe.
We
Hard
love the
to tell
video
from-
on your website.
What?
We love the video on your website.
Yes.
That was really well made.
Yes, yeah. I should introduce you to my video guys.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Seriously, they come with like a whole thing.
Seems like we need them.
We have this. But
No, this is great. This is great.
A little more intimate.
Yeah, that's funny. That's embarrassing.
No, it's awesome. I mean, we researched everyone for background, and that was like the best thing we found by far. Like LinkedIn was the extent to everyone else's. Like,
Yeah, well,
background.
I'm in a little bit more of like a public-facing business.
Yeah,
so I
that's
like
true.
put out a lot more stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it did a great job.
My job is to publicize a little bit more. So I do a lot of like video and try and do like appearances and like be on TV and stuff.
Yeah, when we saw it, so we sent out your email like first, hoping that you would respond.
Oh, really?
You're like, he's so cool. And then when
Oh,
you responded
thanks.
that you knew Alex, I was like, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like the one guy that we thought
I sold him this apartment.
Yeah, that's awesome. And good luck with selling it again, I guess.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
We might be the last guys to stay in it. Which is
We'll see.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is there anything else we can touch on?
I guess, what experiences have you had after, like, recently reconnecting with people from McDonogh, or from your class?
So I got married like 2 months ago. So I invited a lot of my friends from McDonald's there. We're at an interesting time of our lives because we're 30 or 31. Everyone's like getting married and the girls are having kids. So we're seeing, we're just like seeing more of each other than we did earlier in my 20s, which is really nice to reconnect with people sort of in this new phase of life. And then professionally, I was very involved in the meetups of McDonogh when they were in New York. I think COVID sort of made them go by the wayside. So hopefully those will come back and I'll be able to see people more in the city. But you'd be amazed, like, my job now, I get listings, I sell them, people call me to buy apartments. I have people that call me that like live in New York that went to McDonogh that just found me. That are like, I saw you went to McDonogh and I would love to work with you. Like literally happened to me probably 3 times last year. People I didn't know. And it's incredible that you can go through like a decade of time and somebody will literally seek out someone who went to their high school and be like, I trust this guy.
That's super cool.
So yeah, that's like the most amazing sort of reconnection thing or connection thing, period. Right? That the people that have sort of stayed in New York, that have started to own apartments or like really start families here, have started to think about how I can help them, right? And I would do the same thing for anyone that I would need from like a lawyer, finance, anyone perspective, and I have.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Super cool. So that's a lot of our time.
Yeah.
Do you have any final remarks or final pieces of advice for the graduating class of this year and the next few years?
Final pieces of advice. I would say, clearly you've seen the world is crazy and a disaster and wild, so I would just do everything in your power to have fun and not be too stressed out about the next few years of your life. Experiment. Don't be afraid to fail, and don't be scared to move from Baltimore to New York because it's a great place.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Was it a
That was
pleasure?
awesome.
My pleasure, guys.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yes. Happy to do it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Cut.
Yeah.
Cool.
Congratulations, by the way.